Hey guys, since the last time I posted, quite a few things happening. I'm trying to work on learning Blender. It's a 3D animation program. Learning that, then I can bring you new content. Learn DaVinci Resolved. I can bring you new, better content. Um, I didn't want to, like, I should have been posting and posting. Technically, I should have been keeping updates because I did want this to be like a more so of my blog for me to get to know myself and put some of my thoughts out there. But to also learn more because I can't know everything, and also I guess to be ridiculed by you guys to let me know that I'm not as intelligent or so as I think, and also to I guess teach you guys something, maybe give a few guys a new perspective. Um, but mainly is learning process and going through stuff that how I teach myself stuff and how I use the internet to find new things, new perspectives, new information, and new hobbies, new interests, and stuff like that. Um, so I think that'd be really cool to bring that. Um, so yeah, I'll definitely be posting more often. But what I did want to talk about today is just the because my page was originally about being an atheist, black atheist. On top of that, and being a male, and then all these like mainly just going from this specific perspective, um, and trying to talk about that. But being a black atheist is very it's like it doesn't even encompass all everything because it's the humanist, secularist, um, and then you don't want to be too utilitarian in your thoughts, and then you realize that there's certain ideologies that conflict with others, and then you have to read more, and then you're even curious to know. Well, that's what I was. If I was curious to know, well, these thoughts that I have on how I feel, what absurdism is, or certain situations are absurd, or certain things are absurd, or certain religious beliefs are absurd, or the person is behaving a certain way, which especially at a job, behaving a certain way at this job, but they have these specific religious beliefs, but they're wavering at this moment because it's business, and just how absurd that is, and all that stuff that entails, along with existence and understanding that and reality and how we could probably never know what reality is truly made of and all that stuff and all that stuff on top of that, and how absurd it all is, especially you're trying to be humane and talk with another person and communicate with another person, right? But then you also have to remember that not all people are going or having that perspective, and what that entails, and the feelings that you have when you're surrounded by people who aren't open minded, who are going to like ostracize you, who are going to make you feel like you're not entirely there, you're not entirely reasonable, and how to go around that, but not to do it in a way where it's egotistical, where you just only think what you want to think and believe what you want to believe. And you shouldn't worry entirely about what others think. That is not entirely true because, like I said earlier, given that no one is perfect, there are mistakes that you're going to make, there are beliefs that you may have, there's still human, so there's still things that you're not entirely understanding, you know, and and it becomes then the topic becomes then truly complicated, and stuff like that. So just you don't want to get into identity politics, but yes, at the same time, you have to get into identity politics. But that's the thin line that I've realized over the years of what it takes, of all the situations that happened between the last time I posted, especially, and then even before that, because of Corona and stuff like that, and all the stuff that has happened, that one has to truly come to the conclusion that this is a very thin line we have to walk. Obviously, even when it comes to politics, something like a leftist extremism could be viewed as not as violent as like obvious of like fascism and stuff, where eugenics and stuff would take a play, and ethnic cleansing would probably take a play, and then there's power moves who has a stronger military, and then based on the ethnic background that they have, and because they have the stronger military, now they can use uh, that power against other people who are not of that ethnic background. So there's all this stuff that plays a role when you talk about that. But when it is leftism or whatever the case is, that even those things are very blurred and hard to understand where would the violence actually come from. There's ways to point it out, but most people feel personally that the average Joe, quote unquote, isn't doesn't even want to storm the castle. They don't want to be, no one wants to become January Sixers. And for that reason alone should prove that it's not the violence. But then there's other small incidents of violence, like let's say the little Luigi thing would be considered leftist. So it's really, really complicated. On top of that, once violence is then involved and morality is now into play, and how that can play a role, because you said that you're an atheist and then your moral scale now comes from this. But then you also have to admit that violence does defend a violence in defense can then preserve certain lifestyles and then within that lifestyle you can have certain religious beliefs, philosophies and ideologies and the luxuries that you wouldn't have if you're not just thinking about food and water and shelter, um, and all those things, and it becomes really, 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 really complicated, and the lines get blurred, especially if you're just having conversations. They get even more blurred because there's no actual track of which points were hidden, which points were actually true, which points were not fully thought out or not fully explained, which perspectives, which views did the opponent or the opposite person not truly understand. Um, and there's something I've learned even when it comes to debating and having those types of conversations, that living abroad, as I'm from America, living abroad in Germany, and realizing that they have stuff in their TV shows where they have debates, but both sides have to somehow win. And there are situations where both sides can win, yes, but there are also situations where one has to lose, but they would still have debates set up where the person still has to argue their case. And then you have sort of this prosecutor and lawyer weird situation where it's not actually the truth that you're trying to figure out. It is simply it's just simply debate for the art of debating and to prove that you're a better debater. And then my issue, my like this is, I'm speaking from real life because I worked in Germany, and then realizing that now when I do have conversations with other people, that because I didn't articulate myself perfectly, flawlessly, and I didn't always have, especially in another language, a very compelling argument, I guess that they understood that because of that, I lost the debate. And I was just like, and I just kept thinking like that makes no sense given the knowledge that I have, that I obtained, that I could show you, but you don't speak English or you can't really read English, and then certain conversations, it is such a like lengthy conversation. Like right now, I've been talking for these 8 minutes, but at the same time, you think how many hour-long videos have I watched? When I start to post to this page, there are going to be situations where I'm going to say, recommend this. You have, well, let's talk about this. I'll probably say, I'm probably thinking to myself, because I could watch it with others, we could watch it together, but I'd rather post it, say, I'm going to watch this day's time, and then I'll post something we could talk about in the comments, whatever the case is. But these types of situations and things play out, and it really becomes complicated. And I think, given the situations that we're experiencing in America, that obviously there is a new need from sort of thinking ideology, um, especially because I'm coming from the online community that um, that mainly watched Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Dan Dennett and that the whole Four Horsemen stuff, religion and dark side, um, dark matter, and Thunderfoot, and just all these different videos and content, and then now even the new age, and then some of the guys. And people talk about philosophies and stoicism, a lot of stuff that came out recently, and then or feel like it's a few years ago. And then some of these guys now we find out that we can't even really listen to them or trust them, and Joe Rogan being one of them. And it's just, and now it's even more complicated to then truly have these sources. Now you didn't watch the few hour videos, but then you'd have to really truly pick it apart, and then to have the art speak for itself and not entirely put it onto the artist. And then now you even have even more issues, because then what happens when that spills into something like Bill Cosby? And now you want to keep the art so bad because the Cosby Show, and then the Fat Albert, and the college, black college TV shows, all that type of art you want to be able to still have access to. But then now you toss it to the side, it doesn't become generational because we have to dismiss the artist. It's really, I guess it's really, really, really complicated. So this is just more, more piling up on top of just being the black atheist. Because for me, once you have that eye opening, you know that you are um, a human caught up in a reality, and um, as humans, we're trying to study and figure out that reality. It means to me, on top of that, there's a social reality. So yes, you belong to everything, and you're part of the stars, and the stars and the cosmos are inside you. But at the same time, you are still a part of the predator-prey system. You're still a part of the scavenger and shelter, food, water system. And on top of that, the social thing, you are also a part of this social situation where you have certain things expected of you because you're a male on top of that, and then your skin color, and then the national and ethnic background that you have. And on top of that, you'd have to then move your way through being that, and then also the lack of religion thing. And even though I know atheism only means the lack of belief in a god or gods, and that makes me technically more so an anti-theist, as I'm against the belief that anyone should have religious beliefs because of how damaging it is. Even though I know how complicated and how hard it is to accept the reality that we live in. Um, but at the same time, I entirely enjoy it. Though I have to keep it. I have to keep it 100%. I entirely, fully enjoy this. But now seeing the social aspects of it, it just becomes confusing and hard to accept that how can these two realities both exist at the same time, given that most people know that the first one, us just existing in existence, even though we know that that has much more weight. Like how did we allow ourselves to get so, like, how the humans that are still so far gone is what the thing that confused me. But I have to realize that also, it's the things that go, a lot of more things that go along with it. 100 years ago, there are certain things that would never exist at this moment, and it's such a different social reality in comparison to. So that's the thing. It's and then to go back to a point, to me it's more than just um, being then a black atheist, because like I said, atheist only is the lack of belief, but I'm more so anti-theist. And then on top of that, I still do want the best, I guess, for my species, um, and want to truly understand what it means to be a human, the understanding of sexuality. On top of that, um, when I have the discussions with other people, when that topic comes up, it is always a two rule though, or law that I gotta brush up on my terms, but um, 18 and up, and with consent. Obviously, if you're 18, if you're 15 years old, another person's 15 years old, then consent is then much more important, and understanding on top of that what you guys are even doing. Um, but there has to be consent and 18. And then when someone says something about animals, is some stupid conversation where it goes in that direction, then I've always said, well, that animal cannot consent. The animal cannot say, well, yeah, so I love you, I feel, but this is so then it blocks the interspecies thing. There's certain things that people think that if you that you're talking about allowing everything, and I'm like, well, no, and then not being allowing everyone to have absolute freedoms means violence in some sort of way. There's going to be a sort of pushback, and some people are probably going to be willing to be violent in order to uh, have those certain freedoms. So, as I said, when I think about secularists and humanists and atheists or anti-theist in my situation, to just to be a little more defined, it is of much is so much more because there's much more words that are needed to be used to actually describe um, what I'm truly thinking, and that's why I guess I'm using this, making this whole YouTube channel in the first place. Even though I have it in my mind, I still want to put it out there, and I want to be tested on it, and I want to be checked by others on if what I'm thinking and what am I putting out there is actually making sense. And there's other things. That's why I want to animate, because I want to actual show why I'm even thinking that my voice is even relevant outside of just being a part of the species. But why do I truly think my voice has any sort of value to it? Um, Outside of just what I'm saying, even though it may make sense or so. Um, but yeah, it gets complicated. So there's much more to it than just that. And I think I've said those types of things in the other videos. Those my main original points, that it doesn't just stop there, that you have to somehow continuously still be able to appreciate certain values, certain forms of philosophy, and it may come from religion. I love religious art. I love that whole concept of Dante's Inferno, um, or seeing angels in Constantine, all that stuff. So I still love it. I still would and enjoy the paintings and the movies and the music and all that stuff. Um, but at this, like I said, at the same time, I still know that the religious belief itself still at times blocks people's ability to truly think certain things. But I'm sure if the argument would be, would they be able to still operate if they knew, let's say, like that the possibility is very high that they'll die and nothing is going to happen after that, and the, those types of conversations, um, yes, are hard, but uh, it's still it's still ways to find beauty in it. There's still ways to view these things in another perspective. There's stuff that goes along with it. It's not just that one thing. Even to go along with the beginning of the video, it's not. You should not just thinking about, well, nothing matters then because there is no a God. There's more to this because your kids still exist, your family still exists. At some point, they may not. But then, does that mean that you still couldn't listen to music right now and enjoy it? You couldn't watch a movie and enjoy it? You're never gonna laugh. There's no joke that can be made that can make you laugh into tears. Like, I highly doubt. Like, I'm sure when you find $10 on the floor, that you're still gonna be like, oh, awesome. Like, there are things in life that you're still going to experience that can still bring joy just as much as sadness and suffering. Life is not at all just about the suffering. There are plenty of moments where animals completely in the wild are laughing, joking, playing, and also being hunted and hunting. And there's times where that play is sharpening your abilities to hunt. I'm sure when us boys growing up, when we were wrestling in the park and playing tag, that increased our ability to then move faster and run if we had to catch prey and stuff like that. But there might be a moment where you might have to catch a criminal, or you might have to catch someone stealing your phone, or whatever the case, or you might have to run yourself from danger. So there are these situations where, yes, of course, it's all a part of that. But you're not going to tell me that you didn't watch Lion King and knew that this is the circle of life, and you're not going to tell me that you didn't enjoy it. And then when you watched videos about it, when they said that that the lion in nature actually exists and does these sort of things, the shock in your face and the shock that you must have felt is also laughable. It's also something that you could look at and laugh and think to yourself, how juvenile was I to, or naive to think that the lions actually do the things that they did, let's say in The Lion King, or you never took the time out to actually inform yourself, So that's the thing. It's perspective, perspective, perspective. I always say that. And now I'm going to cut it short. Um, don't forget, guys, keep it up. Keep his perspective going. I'll get on the content, make you guys some crazy, cool stuff. Just give me some time. I'll stay on top of it. Hopefully, we have enough time. But I'm going to spend the last 5 minutes trying to actually get this right because I feel like I'm plugging something in, which is not the case. All this video that's been showing for the whole time I've been talking, that video is from my one of my arts that I created with the Blender 3D program, and it's actually one of my most beloved projects because I made that without any tutorial. That's something that I made raw, completely just by myself, with the knowledge that I obtained from the tutorials. But that's been playing this whole time. But I just also wanted to add that I won't be making the best type of quality videos. It's going to be more so about the thoughts and the philosophies and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I'll be spending more time learning Blender 3D, and that way I can then make much more cooler stuff. But I definitely will invest more time into that. And as an extra plus, I'll be, not just, sharing my thoughts and stuff like this, and then giving better perspectives. Hopefully, for some people here out there, hopefully I even have something to add. Is also the case, which I think I do. But then on top of that, you'll get the extra cool stuff that I made, and some of the stuff that I made from tutorials. I'll also try to animate that and then plug that in there, to at least give you something, guys, to watch, or at least also make it where it's a little comedic and stuff like that, like in the content I was doing when I first started to make this page. It'd be a mix between that. But I really wanted to, I really, really want to, really, really want to learn Blender. So I'm gonna have to focus on that a little bit more. Hope you guys understand.